Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I covered it. Reading of the call.
You're echoing, yeah. Please be, dear Supervisor, please be advised that the Trumbull County Board of Supervisors will meet at 7 p.m. on October 21st, 2024 in the county boardroom. All county board members' claims are due in the county clerk's office by noon on October 4th, 2024, so they could be prepared for audit committee approval. Sincerely, Paul Severson, County Clerk.
Certify that open meeting law requirements been met with,
We got to do.
reading of the call.
Oh, no, you can do that one first. Yep.
Certify the open meeting law requirements have been met with proper posting and notification,
Yes.
and the clerk will read the roll call.
Bridget Turner. Here. Stacy Klein.
Here.
Richard Seisha.
Here.
Lori Severson.
Here.
Andy Todd.
Here.
Richard Anderson.
Here.
Kevin Adams.
Here.
Dick Miller.
Here.
Kevin Whalen.
Here.
John Austin.
Here.
Don Waldera.
Here.
Robert Becker.
Here.
Renee Lyon.
Here.
Kellen Nelson. David Larson.
Here.
Jeannie Nutter. Ron Johnson.
Here.
16-1 at this point.
Okay. We have a 14-item agenda, looking for approval. Motion by Supervisor Johnson, second by Supervisor Nutter. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. That's carried. Minutes from 9:16, 10:08, 10:14, and 10:16.
Do you want to do them individually or do you want them?
Let's do them in a bunch.
I'll
Any-
make a motion to approve minutes from 9:16, 10:08, 10:14, and 10:16 of 24.
Motion by Supervisor Turner and seconded by Supervisor
Becker.
Becker. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, it's carried. Samuels Group.
Good evening, everyone. Good to see you tonight. I'm Kurt Berner from the Samuels Group. I see some new faces here. So we were the construction management firm that were part of your project here. And the reason I'm here tonight is the property committee requested that I come and give you an update on how we're moving along with Phase 2. For those of you that aren't aware, there was a Phase 2 of the project for renovating the old courthouse. And we started that earlier in the year and had put it on pause to wait for some potential grant funding. The grant funding update we got in August, so we got notification that grant funding wasn't going to be coming our way, so then we came back and worked on finalizing the layout, or working on finalizing the layout. So where we are right now is Rebecca and Tim and Jeremy are meeting with department heads to make sure that the layout is consistent with what they need moving forward with the renovation of the existing courthouse. Venture has those notes from them in their possession, and we will be bringing a preliminary floor plan back to the property committee on November 4th for their approval. And then based on that approval, then we will move into construction documents, and those construction documents will then go out to bidders. Hopefully get that out to bid before the end of the year. Our goal is to have those bids out so that contractors can bid on that work in the winter months and see some competitive numbers come in to keep their people busy. So that's kind of the update of where we stand with that renovation portion. We did have our 11-month walkthrough a little earlier than 11 months today, and to kind of give you an idea of what that is once you occupy this building, you have a 12-month period of time for us to come back and get a list from Jeremy of odds and ends that need to be finished by the contractors. That meeting took place today. We'll be getting those out to contractors here in the next couple of weeks so that they can deal with those issues here moving forward. So, brief enough for you, Audie? Is that kind of the update you were looking for? Clear as mud? Yeah.
Well, I got a couple questions for you. The 12 months actually is up in what, January?
Yes.
And then after that, all the subcontractors are pretty much free?
So the way it works is try to explain it in vehicle language. Your 12-month is kind of a bumper-to-bumper coverage, right? After your 12 months, you still have warranties on your components that are manufacturer warranties. So like your air handlers and all of that have warranties that are beyond that. This first one is really dealing with things that, like door handles or those sorts of things that needed to have adjustment and workmanship things for the contractors to get done. So we're not going anywhere. If you have something that comes up beyond the 12 months, just contact us and we'll work with you.
Maybe you can enlighten me on this. On the original bid, I wasn't here for it, so I don't know. But I think the signage in that new building kind of, it leaves a lot to be desired, you
Okay.
know? Because we have a lot of people, just when I come in and out for meetings, that they're walking around, they're lost.
Sure.
Was it put up the way it's supposed to, or was the design that bad? Or who's really at fault of that?
Well, wayfinding is always a unique element of that design. So we had a vendor that had came in and had given us some ideas in regards to where that signage could be. It is one of those elements that once you do get into a space, there's a lot of times that signage may be tweaked in regards to the flow. So it's not uncommon for you to want to make adjustments. And we can address some of that when we get into phase 2 if you feel that there's more wayfinding that needs to be done. So
Yeah, good. I
Yep.
think we'll discuss it then.
Yeah. That's all I had. Any other questions? All right, thanks for your time.
ODIP, check presentation. I like to hear that, Vance.
It'll turn red.
I saw that. That was pretty slick. I'm a quick study. Thanks a lot for putting me on the agenda. I'll be pretty brief. It's always kind of fun to show up to this after a culmination of a lot of moving parts and a lot of time together, that when it all comes together, don't you love when a plan comes together? And I'm here to hopefully put some smiles on your face. Thank you, Board Chair, Mr. Austin, and Paul. Good to see you again. I'm going to test Paul Severson's memory. Did you know that the county, Trempealeau County, is an owner and insurance company? Do you know the name of that insurance company?
Trumbull County Insurance.
Who said that? That's the Blue Star. So that kickoff was 24 initial counties that braved the way, and they were the charter counties. That was 1988. You guys weren't too far behind. Paul, what was the exact year? I'm going to say it's 90.
It was either 89 or 90.
Okay. So we're talking a while now that Trempealeau County got on board. There are 53 owners of the Wisconsin County Mutual Insurance Corporation. So when John introduced me, he said the ODIP check presentation. The ODIP stands for Owner Direct Insurance Program. And the owner direct means we are utilizing your insurance company. And so the idea that came about back in March of 2021, so we're going to do a little history here, recent history, but history nonetheless. In March of 2021, this young man over here, Kurt Berner, brought me in to meet your building committee. And I'm going to ask Kurt actually to participate when we unveil the check and we take a couple handshake pictures together. So I got to meet in March of 2021, the building committee, and explain what the ODIP is about. And the ODIP discussion went that what we're going to do is we're going to ask all the contractors that built this lovely facility to back out the costs for their workers' compensation from their bid. You hold that money and then buy the insurance for them for workers' compensation. That's for injuries. You buy that insurance from your insurance company, the Wisconsin County Mutual, and that's who I am and who I represent. And if we have a good project, if there's money that didn't go towards injuries and claims, we give it back. Guess what I'm here to do tonight? Give it back. That's right. So, broad brush. There's nothing more important, we think, in our lives as we get consumed by the daily tasks. Money is very important, right? We got to exist with money. County government needs money to go ahead and exist. There is something that I want you to understand that's even broader and more important than money that you ought to be awfully proud of. And the number one thing that's more important than money is what? Your health, your safety. all the other things that you got on your agenda tonight, if you were battling with some health issues right now, guess what would be all consuming? On your mind, your health. I am so proud to tell you that we went 599 consecutive days building this project, and every tradesperson that came and did work on your project went home that night and returned healthy the very next day. And so 599 days to do a project this long, that good, is quite amazing. So we started in July of 2021. So Tad Gardner is the superintendent. I got to know him, and Eric Geis is his right-hand man, and Kurt Schleicher was your project manager, and Kurt Berner was the guy that brings us all together. And Kurt and I go back a ways now on doing these ODIPs together. And so while we are going to celebrate this big check, and I actually knew how Mr. Severson works, so I blocked the number and left the room. And sure as heck, there's fingerprints from Mr. Severson trying to look at the number. And so I'm going to be very proud to give this to you. I'd love to be able to shake John's hand and Paul's hand. I want Kurt to come on up. There are a lot of moving parts, right? When you think about that many days, that many workers, that many people putting plans together, making a plan, execute, and happen. But it didn't start and wouldn't have been off the ground if it wasn't for you folks. I will tell you there are other counties that are struggling in the state right now with the decisions you made. So the tip of the hat that I've got to give to you folks is to have the courage and the vision to do what you did. We are stacked against, when you think about, Kurt, what does it take? 5 years, 4 or 5 years of planning, looking at data and that before you can actually put a plan together and say, we think we need to build this. Is that 5 years? Is that safe?
Sometimes it's longer.
So think about that cycle, 5 years, maybe a bit longer. We got to collect our data. We need to build something. What's that going to be? Where are we going to do it? And in the meantime, we have this thing every 2 years called what? Elections. And so to have a turnover and a vision stay that consistent to say, this is what we need, this is what we've got to do to get a project of this magnitude off the ground. There are counties that are struggling with that right now. And they thought they had a good vision, and then the election cycle comes and we educate again, and then there's another vision. So the cards are just stacked against public government, really, when you think about it, to be able to execute and do a project like you did. That's incredible. And with that, all right, Paul, now I'm going to take it off.
Come up here and do it, so it gets on.
I get to see it first, Paul.
Is it still got a 2 in front?
You'll like it, Paul.
Does it still start with a 2?
So I will show it around. And I think you can get some signs. All right. So 174, what's the rest of the number?
172, 86.
886.71.
And 71 cents. So congratulations. That's what happens when you put your head together, when you have a great partner like Samuel. So I was just proud to be part of it. I came up here, I don't know, depends upon what we were doing construction-wise, but on a weekly, semi-weekly basis, got to know the people, got to know our tradespeople quite well. We bought several lunches between Samuel's and I. Every 100 days that we went without an injury, we would buy a lunch for the team. Everyone that was working, we'd buy them a meal and come on in and say, thank you, thanks for working with us, thanks for working with each other. Samuels would buy the next one, and we went back and forth. So we had 599 days worth of lunches that we had to buy, and I'm proud as heck to be able to say that. So with that, Kevin, are you going to take a picture from back there? Want to come right up here in the little U, or is that?
Or you want us on that side? Or
Well,
you
then
want
the
us
table
on
won't block.
Huh?
Which way are you coming inside?
Yeah, you come like this, and Kurt, come up here, I want you can absorb John or Paul on your side, whatever you want.
Well, you're holding the mic, so I'm coming on your side.
Come on, John.
smiles.
And then I want one like this.
All right.
One with a wall like this. Thank you, Kevin.
All right.
Congratulations.
Very nice, thank you.
Let's see if we can cash it.
It won't fit in the
I
night.
don't think we can tell you guys. There's no place open tonight. It's not money.
See if you can get it in the Nate deposit box.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Vance. Next on the agenda, item C is Trempealeau County Coroner Bonnie Kinchy.
Okay. Thank you very much for letting me be here. I see a lot of nice people sitting here. I have some information, and I think it's very important that you're all made aware of it. I do not go snooping around into rooms and asking and stuff like that. I don't do that. But I do spend some time here in the courthouse, and not only in the courthouse, but out in the public. And I'm here to tell you what is going on and what I'm seeing and people are telling me. And this started a while ago when Rebecca was hired. And everybody was really upset about this because she hit everybody's office as a bully. And my first thought was maybe we should send her over to the grade school and let them teach them how not to be a bully, was my first thought, okay? Because that is so awful. But she decided that she wanted to have me at a meeting. Obviously, she hasn't heard of HIPAA violation. It's a federal law. Of course, that didn't happen. The other thing that has come to my attention is age discrimination, which is a really big thing. And that isn't age 50 anymore. It's dropped down to age 40. You don't tell people that they can't do this and they can't do that because they're too old. You also don't tell people that there's too many grandmas working in this courthouse. Guess what she's aiming for? She's aiming for a lot of kids with a lot of people so she can do the daycare center. If you read the paper on a weekly basis, about every 2 or 3 weeks, a new daycare center opens up, and most of the kids are going to Head Start. They qualify for Head Start. And I know all the dozens of kids because I used to do all their CPR training for them at Head Start. Very concerned about that. Usually in a facility like this, when people have a problem, they can go and talk to the HR person. They obviously can't do that because she made herself director of HR. They have nobody to complain to. They have nobody to talk to when things go wrong. So people are trying to get jobs out, and you're losing really, really, really good, talented people here that work hard and they know their job because of one person. Actually, it's all you people. And I'm sorry if you're getting upset because I'm doing this. Trying to not miss anything. So far, we've hit very hostile working place. That is against the law too. And it really is, because people are scared to death when she comes snooping in her room. And what are they supposed to do? They can't complain to everybody. She also has, and I've been told, that she has a little, actually she was described as a big mouth, that she actually is the secretary for Rebecca, that anything that gets said around there, she's kind of feeling it out and goes right back to her too. And this is such a terrible, terrible thing to be doing. What made me really, really, really decide that I wanted to come here is, beside the fact that I've been in Trempealeau County since I was in 3rd grade, and we're not going to even discuss how long that is. Paul, don't you dare tell anybody. Wonderful people here, and I'm hearing it out on the street. I had, the straw that broke the camel's back was when a mom stopped me and said, you know, my granddaughter wants to come and apply up here and work up here. But we've heard so many rumors about that place. I told her, don't waste your time, don't do it. So we're not going to get the good people to come here and work because of what's going on in the facility. And that is absolutely awful. And I've been coroner for 35 years plus deputy 6 years prior to that. And I have seen how hard these people are working, and they're doing a good job, and their families depend on their insurance. Their families depend on them working. And they're looking for a job some other place because she's cutting them left and right. Cutting them part-time, She wants to do a stupid daycare center, which is out in the public, that's the dumbest thing people I've ever heard of. Sorry. And the fact that she's got too many grandmas working here kind of tells her side right there. So I'm sorry if I offended anybody, but the people that know me know I'm telling you the 100% truth, and I'm here because you know what? I'm an elected official, and she can't touch me. I've heard she hates elected officials, so look out, guys. But that's why I'm here today. And if you have any questions, I can verify everything that I've said, everything. And I've heard that a new one just happened today. Look what she wants to do to the cable TV station. There's people, and I've never seen anything on that because I don't have cable. It's way up on Brecky Ridge, and I have to have them run it down to my house, so I've got a dish. But I have people that really rely on that, religiously rely on that, and she wants to cut it. She comes in here and doesn't have a clue how nice people are in Trempealeau County, and she starts shooting them down left and right. And I'm done. And I'm sorry if I offended anybody, but I hope I really got through to anybody. And I know Dawn, the day she tore off my daughter's head out in the tent, not my daughter's head, my daughter's doll's head. See?
I don't remember this.
See? As I've known a lot of these people for a long time, and I'm a very honest person, and I'm here today because I really think you guys need to open your eyes. This is ridiculous. I don't like my taxpayers' money wasted on something like this and somebody like this, to be direct and honest to the point. And I deal with some of the nicest people that you can't imagine when they're going through the worst possible time in their life, and I'm here to help them get through it and do whatever I can with them. And like I said, 35 years, one complaint, and that's why she wanted to have a meeting with me. One complaint in 35 years.
Okay, thank you. Cybersecurity, Tim Robertson.
I promised everyone today that this would be a tight 5 minutes. Did a dry run with the IT team, and I talked as fast as I could, and it came in at like 6 minutes. So you'll have to forgive me for that. I promise it's not intentional, but you don't want me talking fast. Can do. Oh, come on now.
Tell them to breathe once in a while, too.
Take a deep breath. Have to join the meeting first. I got a guy. I got a guy. I was trying to do it from over there, but then I couldn't get into the network, and I know a guy to blame about that, too. Let's do that. All right, so got a quick presentation. So why is it not sharing my screen? All right. There we go. We gotta move this out of the way. Shrink that. Okay. Come on, go away.
Time's up.
Sorry. I'm ready to skip this, to tell you the truth, and just talk. Well, it's because I'm, there we go. Yeah, we just have to do that, and then I gotta bring this up. I got some, come on. All right, so October is Cybersecurity Month, Awareness Month, and this year it's particularly important because we have a, election coming up. Maybe you've heard, kind of a big deal. And this presidential election year, we have to be especially alert to potential threats to our organization. We, as part of Cybersecurity Month, we send out an invitation to all the staff to do some awareness training on the different methods that hackers use to try and get information from you, and 80% of them deleted it immediately because they thought it was spam. So there's plenty of paranoia out there on the staff. They're really aware of cybersecurity, so that's a good sign. So right now, the threats to the elections, we have reports that this represents one of the most dynamic and complex threat environments U.S. election officials and organizations have faced. Election-specific lures with stolen election correspondence are already been captured, selling of election-related data, hacktivism attempting to alter reported results and create confusion, threats to elected officials and election workers. In addition, there's also a lot of lures and emails going out with hurricane relief efforts, the war in Gaza, the war in Ukraine. So there's so many different things that are hitting our network, and we're having to deal, our staff is having to deal with that, but you are also targets as well. So I gave this brief presentation to the property committee, and Rich asked me to speak to you about it because you are actually potential targets this year, and I wanted you to make sure you were all aware of it. First thing you need to know, Trempealeau County voting equipment is never connected to the internet. Paul Severson will attest to that, and he has a very analog process like all county executives do, and it is, it's an important safeguard, and I'm glad we have it. But while voting equipment is not connected to the internet, threat actors could still wreak havoc on an election by breaking into the county's network. Once inside, they could freeze or alter websites, steal registration data, or do other things to harm public confidence in elections. They could shut down other systems. They could try and shut down our 911 system and create chaos that would really interrupt our day. I mean, if you've been around the county on a voting day, you know how busy and chaotic it can be. The FBI and CISA, which is the Center for Internet Security Agency, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency, and they asked that we be cautious. Oops, jumped ahead. And direct quote, be cautious of social media posts and unsolicited emails or phone calls from unfamiliar email addresses or phone numbers that make suspicious claims about the elections process or cyber incidents against election infrastructure. If you receive or see any of this type of information, verify the information against mouse. I'm gonna throw it. This is really going well. Sorry. To verify the information against state and local officials, verify it on your own through trusted sources. Don't use the phone number that's given in the email that says, call me and I'll explain. They could be pretending to be federal officials, and you don't know that. So if you receive any suspicious emails, verify the content with something that you trust that isn't in the content that you've received.
I got one of those today. Should I send it to you? I didn't open it, I deleted it.
You can forward that to us, and then, or you can just delete it. If it's,
Well, it's kind of spooky. Only love, peace, truth, no violence. I mean, killed by Israel. It's about Paris, Biden.
That was a website, you know, to the whole group.
Was it? I just thought this was crazy, so I didn't. So can I just like delete it?
I would just go ahead and delete that.
Okay, it's gone now.
Stolen credentials have been used effectively on thousands of government agencies across the country. They use it to deploy malware, bots, and ransomware. Just about, I'd say about a third of the directors I've run into at various events have explained their run-in. We had a run-in earlier this year where a coordinated brute force attack happened against our network, and we were forced to investigate through a third party to make sure that we hadn't been breached. I can report that we were not, so that was a huge relief. Susan would not be with us tonight. She'd still be working on that if that had happened. There's a great deal of struggle that goes along with that. They also use the stolen credentials to access data or to exfiltrate data and sell it somewhere. System interruptions can be initiated from stolen access, and they can escalate privileges. Even though you don't have rights inside the network, they can try and find a way to escalate those privileges. Denial of service attacks are another method that we're concerned about, where people can't get to our website because there's so many people trying to access it at once through a coordinated campaign. It cuts off citizens from the information. Even though there is a denial of service attack or there is an infiltration into our network, the data that Paul has is still secure and is reported to the state through an analog process. It does, if you ever hear anything that, oh, this is wrong, make sure you check with Paul first because he has the data. So what we're doing to protect the network, multi-factor authentication is used by all the staff. We are exploring the possibility of adding multi-factor authentication for you because these threats have come on recently. We feel like we really, even though you don't have access into the network proper and just have email, a stolen email account can be just as dangerous for the organization. So we are going to look into the cost of outfitting you with that as well. We recently acquired through a health department grant a tool that's going to help us analyze data in a way so that if we do have these brute force attacks again, we can quickly identify if we've actually been breached or not, which is a feature we didn't have earlier this year. We've also made some security changes this year that have been long needed. I won't go into detail on that because I'm not going to discuss what we're doing to defend ourselves in a public forum. The IT staff, we take turns conducting a daily security analysis. It takes a lot more of our time now than it ever used to, but that's so they can become familiar with the baselines of all our systems and they can tell when something's gone sideways. And then staff training, that is the number one thing that we have. Getting the staff aware of what these campaigns are and able to protect our network by not clicking on things they're not supposed to. And I feel like that our efforts have been moving in the right direction there. So lastly, if it looks suspicious, if you didn't ask for it, either investigate on your own, verify the request is genuine, or just delete it. I have sent emails to all of you, an email today that has links to 6 particular documents that are public service announcements from the FBI and CISA explaining the election concerns and how you can protect yourself. So I highly recommend you can go out to, it's on the county website, so you just click on the link I sent you. And I swear it's safe, it came from me. And take a look and read up on it. Yeah, there are a lot of threat actors out there that are trying to do some nefarious things. And as a final note, the reason why you are a valuable target is, for example, election night, Paul has the numbers. Paul gives the numbers to IT. We post it to the website. One of you got hacked, and they send out from your official email account that these numbers are wrong. It's all bogus. By 6 in the morning, we would be overrun with media, and it would be chaos. And that's what a lot of these threat actors are trying to do. They're trying to create chaos. So be calm, be patient, and be vigilant. Take care of yourselves. Watch what you're doing, and not just on your work accounts, your Facebook and your social media accounts as well. Thanks for your time.
I got a
Any
quick
questions?
question. Yeah, I got a quick question. You know, a lot of people come up to you and say, we work at a polling place on Whitehall, actually. I mean, my wife do, and they said, see, you can see it's not hooked to the internet. But there's a lot of people said, these aren't hooked to the internet either. It's called data. So, I mean, how do you explain?
Well, those are connected to the internet through Wi-Fi and the cellular connection. Those don't
Right.
exist either. There's no wire going in, and there's no Wi-Fi, and there's none of
No,
that.
yeah, in the voting machines.
Correct.
I always say they'd have a good patent if they could get the internet to come through that electrical wire. Then
There was attempts to do that at one point, but they gave up, so.
I think one other thing, and Paul, you can speak to this. You know, we have a paper trail in this county. Can you just, and I think this is for the viewers to know, you know, you want to just comment briefly about what paper trail there is in the system we have today?
well, all our ballots are paper ballots. The only part that goes through a machine is they're tabulated. We've done audits after elections, and we've never had a problem. The numbers come out on a hand count exactly the same as the machines. So I'm 100% confident that the machines work well. And you can see.
What you did, right, if the paper is printed right as you're voting.
Nope, we don't have that anymore. That was the old Edge machine. We now have what's called ICE, Image Cast Evolution, is what they're called.
Pull, Paul.
It's a paper ballot that you fill in the oval and stick it in the machine. So,
And that's auditable. So.
yes, and that's when after the election we do audits, and we'll pick well, the state picks a bunch too, mandatory, but I've done extra. And they always come out with the hand count is the same as the machine, so.
Quick question, Paul. What presidential election number is this for you as county clerk?
36 would be 4. 9? It must be number 9.
This is your 9th presidential election?
I think so.
See, that's service to the community right there. 9 presidential elections. Thank you, Paul.
88. Yeah.
like the machines.
I think it's the most important job here at the county. If you can't pull off an election, what's the point? So, thank you very
Our
much.
first election, presidential election, we did not get done until 4:30 in the morning. Because then it was all hand count, hash marks, and that was X's and all that. So we had to go through every ballot that way. But, so the machines have saved time. Don't you remember that? Audie, you must remember.
You're not much younger than him, Roddy.
Whoever it was in
If there's no other questions, thanks for your time.
Yeah, I would have asked Paul real
was
quick.
before Clinton.
When it comes to those voting machines, there's a lot of questions about, like you were just talking, there's a great point. It's right next to, and it prints. Well, these voting machines also, not print, but also can show you what you're voting. And it gives your confidence to the voters what they're putting in is being showed. Where have talked to different areas, they're saying, no, we don't want to turn that on. Or we were told not to turn that on. Absolutely. Whitehall, we were told not to turn that on. So any voting areas you go, that I understand is when they put their ballot in, there is no access to see what they voted. They said they were all told. Now, Whitehall, I said they were told not to turn that on.
And you can check on that, but that
Yeah.
doesn't sound right. Yeah.
So can they turn that on? If I go to Whitehall for voting, can we get that turned on?
You can't turn it.
Yeah, you can.
because-
When you put your
because-
vote ballot, it goes ding, and it's in. You can't see what you voted.
And that's what it is on all machines.
Exactly.
There's no screen
Yep,
to show
there
how
is an
you.
access to see that. They have an access to see what you voted.
That's for handicapped voters.
What does that mean?
Visually impaired or can't.
Well, I understand that.
Yeah. That's all that is used for, the little handsets.
Yeah,
that
well,
will-
it enhanced it. I'll look into it. Just
Okay.
check it out.
I just wish people trusted elections.
Yeah. No, that's not gonna happen.
Well, there's no reason not to.
Yeah, there is. There's a whole lot of reasons.
I wish they did.
Also, this Friday, we're doing an election worker training. So, and we've got over 140 people signed up in the county for that training. And I know Melissa has, part of that is the security part, but also the part about threats against election workers. So, that's the part.
Okay. There's no. Item 7.
You got the wrong.
You got the old one.
Oh. Oh, you?
Yeah.
You're on it?
Yeah.
Oh. I didn't have it on mine.
Well, yours doesn't say that either, I bet you.
No, it doesn't.
No.
Doesn't say it. You're supposed to tell me when you have an amended agenda. But anyway.
I told you there was one back there. I thought it was on your screen.
But anyway. So what does it say then?
It says, Rebecca, 25 budget. and
Okay,
CIP
budget,
discussion.
CIP discussion from,
I know you're dying to hear more about the budget,
There you
so
go.
we don't want to skip this.
I knew we had this stuff here and I was looking for you.
Yeah, yeah, it's got to be on there. Just to address real quick, because you all named me HR director and a county administrator, please feel free, if there's ever any issue, those individuals should be, go to Susan and to talk to Corp Counsel. So if you ever have any concerns or anybody comes to you, just make sure that they talk with Susan, so. All right, let's talk about the 2025 budget highlights. This, again, just to remind you, invest in the human element of the county by addressing a lack of pay increase in 2024 for county employees. Wanted to make sure that we addressed taking care of our most important asset, are our employees. This budget, again, is coming forward and included in the budget that I presented to you, includes no step increase, but in the budget includes that 6%, which is supposed to be the inclusion of 3% from 2024 and 3% from 2025. I gave you all the data that shows why it's comparable, why it's justified in order to stay competitive. It also includes health insurance increase of 7.26%. Again, gave you the data showing that we're not out of the realm of what other governmental bodies are doing, and again, staying competitive by including that, and that is included in this budget. So other than wage benefit increase, which is a big part of what we were looking to do, and department heads were instructed, like, this is our goal, is to try to make sure that we get to that 6%. If we need to back off, we will, but if we can get to 6%, that's where we want to be. So I really feel confident in saying, meeting with all of our department heads, they were really careful about where they were placing increases and tried to really keep the line in saying contracted costs, we don't have the ability to work, that's working with groups outside of our government body, so those costs are going up for them as well, so that's one of the bigger increases, as well as some supply costs. But really, I want to just give again a shout out to department heads for keeping in mind that they as well wanted to make sure that their staff were compensated. So looking at reclassification reviews, I just want to touch on these again because as you talked about a little bit there, it seemed like a lot, right? And so these requests were brought forward by department head requests. I put out the paperwork, I think in June, asking, if you think that you have staff that are not being compensated fairly, you need to let me know. And they had to fill out a form and tell me why. And these are the ones that came in from department head requests. And then these are the ones that are a little bit separate because they're from the county administrator request. Because I've told you about the land management department, how that changed. And so we're bringing 2 people up as a manager position. And then the reorganization piece of our IT director, human services director, human resource deputy director, how they're taking on more responsibilities. So those are a couple of changes there. All in all, the reclassification of these individuals is about, if you looked at just the cost of that reorganization and reclassifications, is about $40,000, $41,000. That doesn't include the 6% increase. What I will say is that these positions were all looked at between 4 to 5 other counties to look at comparable costs. So feel very confident in knowing that this is where, we're just behind. And, you did a study on your wages in the past. And so, but with inflationary costs, it's one that we're really, we've got to keep an eye on that.
Which counties did you use for comparables?
They were all on the sheets that I gave you previous.
Before that, Eau Claire, La Crosse, the bigger counties.
Pierce and all of Jackson, Buffalo.
Jackson, a couple small ones, but I just,
Yep.
so everybody knows that it's, you had some good local ones. I mean, the ones that are same size, and a couple, like the bigger ones, La Crosse, Eau Claire,
Right.
Chippewa, I think was one too.
Tried to mostly stay in that middle to, lower end. So taking into account that we're probably not going to compete always with Eau Claire and La Crosse, but we want to make sure we are competitive.
And I think it's important to, even though, I'm sorry, I'm always complaining about that, and here I am. I think it's important to look at Eau Claire and La Crosse County, because when we lose, especially in human services, historically, people go to Eau Claire or La Crosse County because the wage increases dramatically. So even though size-wise we're different, that's where people head to when they're looking to do the same job for a lot more money.
Yeah, it's a difficult, I
It
mean,
is.
it's
We're
it's a
stuck in the
challenge.
middle,
Yeah,
so
yeah. Where
We
where
train
it's-
people, and then they go.
Yeah, where it's a positive, you have a lot of, positives as far as being close to those cities, but it also makes it difficult because they compete with you. All right, long-term borrowing, we started this discussion and talking
Got one
about.
more question.
Oops, sorry, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, I wasn't saying it to be derogatory or anything about it. I brought it out because people who watch this don't have the ability to see what we can see, just so they can, because I know a lot of people are watching this, so they can know what you compared it to.
Yep.
So they wouldn't have that question.
Yep.
That's why I asked
Perfect,
the
yeah,
question.
no, I appreciate the question.
I didn't think you were being derogatory. I just think that
Mike.
sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's good to know, I mean, I learned that today in a discussion we were having, that even though the sizes aren't comparable, I learned it from Mr. Anderson there, Supervisor Anderson, that it's good to, because that's where those are the two counties where we lose people to most of the time. You taught me a good lesson today, and I was listening.
But it's true, you're right.
Don, did you have a question? I saw you know.
I
Okay.
was just trying to alert.
Oh, okay. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. All right, 2025 long-term borrowing. So this is where I've proposed this, so I just kind of want to touch on this a little bit more so you have a little bit better understanding and some of this discussion we've had. So with long-term borrowing, long-range planning is available with an ability to determine financing levels ahead of time. It combats inflation because we know sometimes that double-digit increases in road costs and vehicles and things go up, and this is a way to not defer constantly, but be able to take care of some of those things that are necessary. The citizens that use the services pay for the services. Again, I think we kind of talked a little bit about that and saying rather than putting it all on people right now today, people are going to be using our roads 10, 15, 20 years from now, so to spread it out and make those users help a little bit is appropriate. Borrowed costs for government funds are at a low rate, and so makes it appealing. It makes budgeting for operations easier, and borrowing for long-term commitments keeps the tax rate flat, reducing fluctuations. So that is my proposal this year, where it includes this piece of long-term borrowing, because it's the least impact on the taxpayer. And so it does provide that that's going to be a mild increase, and it would be over a long period of time. You do have an option in the future, and I will bring this forward next year in talking about more short-term borrowing, right? We don't have to pay for the interest charges, but it's a higher impact immediately to the taxpayer. And so that is my consideration in bringing this forward this year, is to talk about how we can make this a low impact in a time when people are kind of feeling the high inflation rates. I think what was a little bit different is this year I shared this 5-year capital plan with you. A capital plan is very fluid, and so while I'm showing you 5 years, it's really to discuss and so that you understand and have knowledge of all of the assets that you have. So your assets are very important to the county, and part of the conversation is how are you taking care of your assets. So sometimes when we're thinking about the cost of maintaining things, or as we've shown sometimes with borrowing, you are downgraded if you're not taking care of those assets as well. So it's something to weigh, but a 5-year or even 10-year plan helps you to go, oh my goodness, yes, we do own these things. We're concerned about what happens to them 5, 10, 15 years from now, because we still need to take care of those things. And so it's a way to make you think and for us to contemplate how we take care of those things. Now, do you have to do it in 5-year plan or put it in long-term borrowing? No. So it's there for you. This year, that's my recommendation. Next year, we debate that whole thing over again, and I'm going to bring to you more options and things because we'll have some more time. But for this year. Long-term borrowing is what I'm recommending. But in the future, we still need to be thinking about how are we taking care of these projects that we have in front of us. So, looking at what are our needs, I'm talking again about levy limits and the inflationary pressure that we've had, and we've all felt it. And how do we accommodate that in a budget that doesn't allow for it really within levy limits and what we are allowed to increase? And we know we need to take care of our employees. We know we have health insurance needs, increases. And so we've got to create some space in the budget. And by putting some of that into long-term borrowing, taking out our capital projects, we create the space in the budget to put in the wage increases that we need. So just looking at the IT department, servers and appliances, PC, laptops, tablets, I tell you, if anybody's organized, Tim's got it all laid out on all the necessary things that are required. And I think this year, we feel it more than ever and how important it is to have secure systems in our IT department and making sure that all of our information is safe. And so that's a really necessary item. Maintenance and courthouse, there's a long list there, or a few things there that Jeremy has identified that need to happen to make this year successful. Register of Deeds, Rose has brought forward scanning vital records. This is something that we looked heavily for grant opportunities that we might be able to find for that almost $85,000. Unfortunately, it just could not find anything that would match up with that. And it's a piece of the whole move. And to bring Rose up to the second floor, have access closer to the entrance, they've got a lot of storage, and we can't put it on the second floor, otherwise it'll be on our first floor. So Rose has wanted to do the scanning for quite a while, but this is now kind of out of necessity so that we can move some of that into storage rather than onto the second floor area where they'll be housed. Sheriff Department, vehicle replacement, taser replacements, again, that may have been in the operations before. We're moving that out. Parks, economic development, septic. And then I've got two areas that are highlighted. Rec facilities and economic development project, $250,000. I have brought this forward to you. You can take that out. This is where I'm saying, this is where I focus on a vision of saying, if you want to increase revenues, I think it's really important for government to be an investor and be a part of that, because I've seen it, and I've seen it successful. Yes?
Question on the Sheriff's Department. I asked, he's not here today. God dang it, I asked Brett about this. And the vehicle is in his budget every year. And now you're taking it out and you're putting it here because then you can put it on the tax roll. My question is what happens in 5 years when all of a sudden this will be gone, let's say, and we don't renew it? And does his budget go back up 200,000? And then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If he's used to it, and then does his budget drop 200,000?
Well, I would say in thinking about your assets, I think vehicle replacement every year has become a right?
And
Yep.
you need that.
And you need it. Yeah,
right.
you need it. So
he needs new cars. I have no issue with that.
Yeah.
Doing the budget, he had it in there.
Yeah.
Now you pull it out, and Rich,
Just
I'm
moved
saying
it.
when he goes to put it back in,
Yeah.
what happens to
But it's
that?
been in the capital.
Yes.
The county has borrowed that money for many, many years outside of the levy.
Oh, they have.
Yeah.
it's gone back and forth
I was gonna
It
mention
has.
that.
on that
But
one.
But it was, I just noticed it because it was last year when he went through his budget, he showed it to me. But they do go outside and put a capital, like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
Well, that's what I want to know. I just didn't know that they had done that.
Yep.
So that explains something to me. Thank you.
Yep.
Genie will get him
Just-
horses.
Gee, you'll give them horses. Perfect. And
That's only for the arm.
Rebecca, before you move on, I
Yes, yes.
did have a quick question to it. I just wanted to clarify, what are accurate controls and stronghold?
So Jeremy can talk to that real quick here.
Sounds like really fancy wording.
That is, yeah, that is a service agreement that deals with the card reader system, the jail controls, the jail locks, the jail camera system. That covers a 3-year contract, that covers 4 services a year from Accurate Controls to come in and do the PMs that are on that over the 4 every year for 3 years. Other than that, if we don't do that, then I'm ended up calling them in each time, and I'm paying their travel fees. And one of our techs is based out of Florida. The other one of our techs is based out of Texas. So then I'm paying their travel fees to get here for all of that as well. It also, with the it's like 121,000, I think it was, for the Accurate Controls, and that covers $46,000 worth of replacement equipment. So whether it's the IT portion of what that stuff is, because this technically is maintenance, IT, and Sheriff's Department, because it's all of us.
Right.
They call me to fix it, they call Tim to fix it, or, and then the jail and the Sheriff's Department are the one that operates it, so that's what that's what that one covers. And the
Sure.
mini splits, if you ask.
Yeah, I
those-
asked Kellen what it was. I didn't understand what that was.
I don't know what that is.
That-
either,
That's
so-
one of those wall-mounted air conditioners that get put into a server room. This is to replace ones that are outside of their life. They haven't died yet, but this is, again, is a unit that is in a server room, so I'd rather replace it since it's already reached its end of service, before it fails, and then I'm scrambling to get one and paying more because it's an emergency fee, so.
Thank you. The reason then that the Accurate Controls and Stronghold hits the capital is because of the replacement, the equipment replacement part of it then,
So,
too?
excuse me. We had actually pulled this because it really doesn't fit in the capital improvement, yes. We had pulled it and it mistakenly didn't get put back in. And so this is where Brian talked about, in some of the, like, we would front load some of the early borrowing would be things that would get paid off quickly. And that would be one of these things. This should have been in our operations, but it was missed. Good catch. All right. So so I talked a little bit about economic development there, and I also have listed it in yellow as, again, tourism website. This, again, is not something necessary. You could decide to eliminate that. This is a part of what I'm saying, again, in economic development or in county government. You often hear you should run government more like a business, right? And in some regards, that's something to work toward. Government the purpose is to work a little slower, right? And to make sure that the public has time to give input and be a part of it. But also, as I've shared with you before, the state does, depending, it's, I can't think of the word, but it's looking at our ability to bring in revenues, and that depends on how much we're going to get back. And so this is a way to build on our sales tax, and by building a tourism website and continuing to develop that. Highway is the brunt of it, and it's over $5 million in here. I'm going to, on my screen, I forgot, the building renovation, where I've put in $1 million. I'm going to get into that one a little bit more to just dissect that a little bit more. And then highway, again, a little bit over $5 million. That's more than 75% of the borrowing is what we're talking about, is roads. And so that is a priority generally for communities.
Yeah, and that's why I brought up wanting to visit with Capital tonight.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a real issue with 5.3.
Yeah.
I know Neil's sitting here, but
I
think we're going to have to look, in my opinion, look at maybe 4.3 would be my max, but I'm just one vote.
Okay.
But I
We're-
really
we're
want,
gonna-
we want to make that decision tonight, right? So you know.
No,
not
no, this is
necessarily-
just for discussion, November 12th.
Okay.
But Neil is here, and we're going to talk about why. Why is that at 5.3? Okay, so we'll get to that. I just want to talk to you first about this building renovation. And why did I put the million in there? Okay, so if you look at our designated building renovation fund, you already have set aside these funds of 3.488988.18 funds that are sitting and available for that renovation. We also have an estimated net interest income for 2024 of about 400,000. We need about 160,000 of that to pay for the remaining part of the time management financial system that's coming. We have a brunt of that paid for through ARPA funds through the health department, but we need a little bit more to bring this forward and get that into place. The remaining then is an additional 240,000 that I would propose on this next slide showing with is that we add that to the 3.488, and then you have 3.728988.18. My proposed additional 1 million then is in that CIP for long-term borrowing, and so that puts us at a total of 4.728,988.18. And why is that? Because when we talked to Samuels, they put out an initial idea of what would this cost to do this building, and Kurt came back and he said about 3.7 million plus 400,000 for contingency. So that is equal to 4.1 million, which is below what we had set aside, and it did not include furniture. And so over at the Justice Center, he had shared that cost about $700,000. Not saying that we would spend that much, but I'm just saying here is an additional 600,000. So that's how that number comes, where that comes from, and why there's $1 million set aside in the bill so that we can actually get it done. This does not include the space for community space or childcare. It leaves that available and ready for potential growth in the future. So let's talk about roads, and I'm going to have Neil come up and we'll go through this on the slides up here. Trempealeau County road scoring. So we use a rating system called the PASER rating system, and it identifies roads that are coming up for reconstruction. Any road that's rated 4 or below is recognized by the state as eligible for grant opportunities due to poor quality. So we've applied the same standard in identifying repair needs to the 5-year plan. So Neil, if you want to talk about that for a minute.
Yes, did you get?
Are you red? Are you on red?
Did you get the PACER page handed out that showed that color?
Nope, I'm going to bring that up on the
Okay,
screen.
so part of this shows the 1 through 4s is the poorest quality roads, and there's a handout because it's pretty lengthy and small. That is the PACER rating that kind of correlates with our 5-year plan that you also have a copy of there. The PACER rating, you can see it on the screen now. Anything from the reds all the way up would be 4s and under. There is 23% of our roads are in that qualification, which is about 68.7 miles. The 5-year plan only covers about 48 miles. So I know when a few weeks ago it was maybe brought up that this would be a catch-up. Realistically, this is more of a sustainable level, not a catch-up. To run it, we need to run about 9.67 miles would be exactly true to stay on a 30-year plan so that it's a revolving of our 296 miles in the county.
So if you, I just want to show what this PASER scale does and how Diane and Neil have laid this out really nice. So your purples are all ones. These are roads that are in poor condition. You would know that they're very poor. The number 2s are just about as bad. 3, and then the 4 level, and you can just see the list. Even the 4s are identified by the state. Is that right, Neil?
Yep.
Identified by the state to being in need. And so you can see the 1 through 4, and then if you don't take care of those, what happens is you start to get into problems in your 5, 6, 7s eventually, and you don't have enough funds to take care of those, so.
Yes, and to go with that point is, from 5 years from now, your low-level 5s and potentially some of the 6s that are, we maybe have chip sealed or something to shore up some time, those now become your 4s or 3s. So this cycle doesn't really break. It sustains itself. And then the other part of it is, so the next graph there you guys have kind of shows that one right there that you're looking at with the whites on it. Do you have that on this slide? Yep. On the left, the white colored one shows the ones, and that's where we're at. The little bit taller one is the 3s, and I think I might have it here too.
Sorry. I'm behind here, I'll get that
Oh,
up
that's
there.
okay.
Oops, shoot. Yeah.
Yep, that one there.
Oh,
While we're looking at that, Neil, where does the use of those roads fit in? Is that, I'm sure it's calculated, but where? I mean, in 240 miles, obviously, there's a lot of it's used way less than others, so.
For example, Double B is the very worst road. And
Okay.
as you can see, it's been not taken care of for the last 6, 8 years because it never gets used, or very little.
Okay.
When Al first proposed his 5 million for 5 years, that was one of the things we were gonna do. So Double B actually has been, some of the hill and stuff has been repaved on the east side of it with our intention that there's exactly 1 mile left on the back side. That's the worst side. That's that segment there, and if you'd see on that Pacer rating page, that is the worst segment. That's just been kicked down the road because people don't use it.
Right.
So some of the decisions in the 3s, 4s, and 5s that are getting chosen are more because of traffic related. We know that
Okay.
certain roads are being used at a higher level, so they take a little priority. Sometimes that's right and wrong. I guess if you live on one of those roads and you're paying, you know what I'm saying, so.
I will say this, that was the same question I had though too, in talking about, there are a lot of gravel roads in Iowa, in Minnesota.
Right.
If they're not getting used very often, do you want to go back to gravel? Now Neil told me, well, if you do that, then you lose some funding, is that right?
Yep. I don't know how the dollar amount gets transferred. I haven't looked exactly. But a gravel road and a paved road does get lesser funding than a paved road does.
And maintenance on a gravel road is, it
It
equals
would be
about
minimal.
the same, doesn't it?
And
from what I've heard.
there's another topic is, we have our own asphalt plant, why would we have gravel roads?
Right.
So,
And- But,
sure, yep,
Chair,
yep.
I just want to add to that, that the reason, Miss Flatlander, is around here with the hills and you got gravel roads, every time you get a rainstorm, what happens?
Right.
You go to Washboard, what do you got to do? Neil's got to send a grader out, and then you got to send 2 trucks out hauling gravel. That's why, and then we always have such good roads around here, because if you amateurize out the blacktop
Right.
over 30 years, it's cheaper than sending the gravel out there and the low, and the blade in the person's time, and he can do
Yep.
something else. But, those, that company that you hired there, those 2 guys, that's the first thing they said, well, how come we got a blacktop plant and everything? Well, it's a necessity, and it's better it's cheaper for us in the long run. But you have to.
Good conversation for people to think about and understand better, yeah.
As a car owner, a gravel road is not good. My road was a gravel road for the first 10 years we lived here. Damage to your car, cracked windshields, your house is full of dust.
I'm not saying I'd like it, it was, yeah. It's a question. Yeah. Well, then it sounds like this board is saying, no way would we ever do gravel, so then you have to debate whether, okay, do you put the money into this and, and make sure you upkeep them from turning into gravel?
Yep.
This 5 million too, or 4 million, whatever we decide on, that also keeps the co-aid roads going and the money going into the co-aid funds and bridges, right?
COID's is separate.
But it's totally separate item, right?
Yep.
Somebody asked me, and I said I'd bring it up tonight and get clarity on it.
But
I just
there
want to have
is,
that for
there's
sure.
a few things, I listed like, bridge and other, because we have bridges being built. Some of it is that, for example, the County D project, when the original proposal was 5 million for 5 years, 2 years ago, we got cut down to 4.8. Last year, with this being the first year of the payment of this building, we were told at our meeting, we don't know what we can find for the highway, we'll figure something out. So we had to push all of our plans off for the D project. Now, we have engineering, we had $250,000 in engineering fees that we've already spent, and then we have to push it. Now, I've also held that. We have right-of-way acquisition. Fred Gruber is waiting to purchase based on decisions, because if you guys elect to shrink our budget, I have to maintain the highway department's work. The men have to work. So if the budget got shrunk, that job's the one that's gonna get pushed because it's $1.2 million a mile. And I'm not gonna purchase the right-of-way, I'm not gonna pay for the wetland mitigations if the choice is to continue to keep smaller dollars. And I understand the reasons, you know, in the managing of the debt, and it's maybe not gonna be sustainable long-term. But there's other things that maybe people are missing in why do you borrow for the highway? Because you can't borrow for any other departments. It's an asset purchase, and that's why you borrow for the construction. Now, another part of that is, for example, sheriff asks for vehicles. We don't. So we generate revenue based on the state's, makes a scale of all the equipment and the rates, and then they set forth a rate for us, and we charge it on. And then we generate revenue back to recoup the costs of those vehicles so we can keep purchasing them without asking on levy items. So borrowing the money covers more than just the road. Is a little insight in what's going on there.
No, I agreed, but I
Yeah.
had a couple of county, town chairmen call me, and they were worried about the COA, and they just wanted to make sure that it was still intact.
Yep.
I know it's separate from the paving and everything.
Right.
But they just wanted to know for sure that you weren't gonna just maybe take the money out of there too, but we're gonna still continue with the COA for bridges and for roads, so.
Yep, and the
Thank you.
Co-ed
Thank
bridge
you.
one is a state statute. That's above and beyond. You remember how that exactly works, Paul? That is a separate tax, right? The co-ed bridge.
Yeah,
That's a separate, that's a state statute we follow and
first and then
reimbursed, yep. That one will always stay for sure. Co-ed, I assume if the towns would want to opt out of it, I suppose that could or would happen, but I mean, it's been a good program for them. I don't know that they would. And it's a good program for us. So, back to the graph, I just wanted to show on the slide here of our winter maintenance. We had called, we'd been getting 600,000 in our winter maintenance for 10, 12 years, and we left it at 600. On the graph there, you can see that we had a smaller year, just about a perfectly average year in 18. Everybody knows what happened in 19 with the big blizzard we had. So we had called it a non-lapsing, and reason being said was smaller, medium there. We averaged out real close. I think those first 3 years were like 700, so we were a little under. But then in 2020, we fell way under. They shored themselves back up. And so it goes. Other than over time, incrementally, it is steadily increasing. So like two of the next slides kind of show a little bit of these kind of show, this one here shows our winter costs from September to get to December, which is kind of, our year's split funny. Our average down in the left bottom there was 222, I think. So I just wanted that on there to show that we're tracking all of the expenses and trying to use the tightest margins that we feel safe with. For example, on that, could you go back to that one, Becky?
Yeah, I'm trying, sorry.
It's okay.
I don't know why I can't.
On the 2024, if you got a page of that, on 2024 there, we left it all kind of blank. For the example that it, it would change it backwards. Yeah, so 2024 is blank here. It would actually invert this dotted line because we didn't have a winter. And one thing we wanted to do was show that the reason for, and it's been called non-lapsing, and we wanted to call it highway assigned or maintenance assigned because next winter might turn the other way. So it's hard to justify saying, well, just an example, we don't want to shrink it down and say, I think we can get by with 300,000, not have enough in that account, and then I have to come to you guys and ask you to try and shore it up with general fund or another way. So I just wanted to leave it there to show that it is steadily increasing with all the inflations. So, and that we're doing it based on the data, not trying to over ask for things.
Probably not important to this conversation, but curiosity has me. Is it cheaper on icy winters or on winters when it's more heavy snow for plowing versus salting?
I would probably say snow, for example, because ice will burn a lot of salt. And salt's our biggest item.
Right, so ice is more expensive.
Ice would be more expensive, yep. Other than, hard to say sometimes.
Okay.
Yep.
It varies.
So how much ice?
Sure, sure, very,
Well, and,
got it.
and all of this ties to then, the public's, our level of service and what the public has started to expect from us, exactly, yep. So, you know, as things have gone, I mean, you guys have probably remembered 30 years ago, the back roads didn't get taken care of well. And it's slowly been, the back roads now are like clean as the state highways 2 days after a storm. We plow it faster, we plow a little better, we use a little more salt, different things, you know. The equipment, I would say, is better, which is a big thanks to how we're running it, but,
I can remember a couple of years at the county when the budget was nothing, and you wouldn't plow till it got so many inches. Well, then John Q. Public is right there making 100 phone calls. Same thing with the police department. You got too much money until you need a cop, and then you want somebody there right now. You know? But it's the same thing. You know, it depends. You know, if you don't give them the service, and you know, you got to get the kids to school. You got to get to your job to pay the taxes to pay for the new road. And it's a cycle, but it's the way it goes. So you can't really say one is worse than the other.
yep. So, yeah, this is what happened with the salt. We don't have 24 data because we didn't ask that to be bid because from 23, our sheds are sitting full. We actually have about 1,700 in our state sheds even, so we probably have enough almost for sure all of this winter and see what even happens here, the way the weather's looking, but, so we didn't have data, but 22 to 3, that was a 10% increase in 1 year, so things get crazy fast, so, just wanted to point out what the decisions were and why they were like they are. And then, on the last slide there,
I'm assuming you think you have to salt on those hills also then?
Considering nobody can drive on
Yes.
snowy roads
That was
anymore,
directed to
correct.
you.
yep,
Yeah, no.
You were getting.
yep. So just in a recap of everything, on the 5-year plan, the general transportation aid is based off of a 6-year of our construction spending. So if we want to shrink construction spending, the general transportation that's given by the state will fall off with it on that 6-year average. So we've been spending on average 2.2 million in our maintenance side. And if construction falls off, the general transportation aid will fall off with it, so that will need to be asked as a higher number. Plus, if construction is less, maintenance is going to be more. There's no questions asked. So it will get larger on this side of the table. So it's going to be a balance between where do we want to fall. Paul, have you seen, I know it's supposed to have been out maybe this last week here. I don't know if we've got it yet, the newest aid? I think as of yet, it's just a preliminary number, not official yet, so. Last year was 1.461, so our ask was, what is that, 600, about 800,000 on that side of it. So just wanted you guys to know that if the construction spending slows, the maintenance will fall off with it. And one other thing that kind of brought to my mind when Jeremy was up here, that, just a little side note, I'm not trying to pick on Jeremy, but Jeremy has a maintenance department. Do you guys notice that we don't ask for maintenance? When our heaters go out and strum 2 years ago, we pay for it. That's where the machinery fund revenue generation has to pay for all of our buildings and grounds and all of our equipment besides. So there's a larger thing going on with the construction funded money and the revenue that's generated for us. So this kind of all ties together. I could talk for hours on how it all, it's a
Please
mess. So, so anyways, I wanted to be done. I just wanted a little clarification on a few of the items.
I do have just one quick question, though. I'm looking at one of the handouts here is the capital improvement plan from 25 to 29, and for 2025, it shows road repairs at 5.3 million. But then on the road construction plan, it actually shows 5.2 million, so I just am wondering.
They might have been a little bit of a tweak or a fix on one of them. So, one of them, I think that one in particular, there's, on the right-hand side, there is the CHI money of 151,632 was not approved yet in that initial one that you guys had gotten. I think that might be the difference in that number. So then once that was approved, then we applied it. That's why on this page, it's a little bit smaller.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Neil? So of those monies that are received from the state the following year, is that always a certain percentage? And if so, what is that percentage?
For the GTA, you're saying, for example? That is a formula. I'm not sure how they calculate it every time. It's a 6-year average, but it's not only that. There's other items in it. Do you happen to have that information? I guess we could get it to you.
I mean, I know the new and reconstruction is always important in that number as well. I just didn't know what the percentages were.
Sure. I can get it to you. I'm not sure exactly offhand what criteria that's, the state decides it. So.
I was just wondering if it differs per county, if it's per population, or is it different for a village versus a county?
So, for example, our GTA is, I believe, it is primarily on our construction spending, and I'm not sure on all the other. They have a list of items that they use.
It's maintenance also.
Maintenance also? So it's the spending that we are currently doing.
Okay, anything else on roads?
Thanks, Neil.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Neil.
Yep,
So
you bet.
we're bringing this forward so that, just to, again, have a better understanding of what this is when you get that projection, okay, 2025 through 2029. And like I said, this is where we're at and proposing for 2025. This is a handout that we got initially from Ellers, from Brian. And I just want you to take a look at this because the second time we had him come, right, we had a lot of conversations on talking about what would it, I'm going to pass it to those guys down there. You were again. What would it look like over 5 years? And if we kept doing this, right, we kind of got into that. We don't need to worry about that. We need to worry about 1 year. That's 2025. 2026, we're going to make that separate decision and we're going to talk about it then at that point. So I wanted to bring this back to you because this is what Brian shared with us initially and saying this is the cost. And you can do it, again, you can do it hard up front and do it quicker and it costs the taxpayer more. So it hits you a little bit harder and that saves you on interest. but it does hit you. And so that's why, you know, looking at the second wrap, as Brian called it, it's extended out longer. And again, that's making the case for saying people that are going to be using, the majority of this is roads, obviously, that you just saw. The people that are going to be using the roads, again, are going to be using it for 10, 20 years, and that's why we tend to say we're going to spread that out more. So, any questions? Always feel free to otherwise reach out. And but I wanted to give you this one more learning opportunity before our next conversation about the budget, which will be November 12th. Thank you.
Can I throw something in here?
Go ahead.
What I find interesting is, now, we've had two different highway superintendents tell us that the cost for this plan doesn't end at 5 years or 10 years. It goes on every year. Now, then I also hear people say, we want, since everybody, are people who are, I can't remember exactly how it's stated, but we wanted people to help pay for it in the future because they're using the road. Well, the future is today. It's not 20 years from now. It's today. We need to be, if we need to go put $5 million a year into highway improvement every year for the next 100 years, or whatever it may be, we need to be spending that money this year and pay for it this year. And so, and I'm not criticizing the plan. What I'm saying is that this plan where we borrow the money for a period of 5 years or whatever it may be, that's well and good. But it keeps going up and up and up in terms of our borrowing. So we end up with up here after a certain number of years with a very significant amount of money borrowed. Should we not be paying this every year, this $5 million, and pay it back in a year's time? Because
So I would say that is a discussion for you to think about as.
Well, that's why I want to get on the table here.
As leaders, that's a choice. I guess I can have Brian run numbers to say that's going to be a much bigger impact to the taxpayer. Yep.
It is, but the problem is, it's going to be a lot higher if we borrow the money for a period of years than it is if we just pay that money towards construction every year. And I think you can all see that it's a real problem.
I mean, there are a lot of counties that have used bonding for a long time. So I don't think that it's very unusual. I think you have to think about it as like you look at your mortgage and, you know, you're borrowing and paying off.
But you're paying off on your this.
And we are too. Every year you borrow and every year debt comes off.
But it keeps piling on and on if you go beyond that, you know, we know what 5 years would be. So what I guess I'm saying is that we can pay more interest over a lifetime of our lifetimes. We can pay more interest, or we can pay it off every year as we go. We can still borrow the money to pay for this every year, but then we need to pay it back every year, basically. And I know, you know, we did that for a while, but we paid it back right away.
It wasn't at this magnitude.
Right. I mean, I think it's gonna be a pretty high price tag to pay that back right away.
I think it would be good information to have, because I would like to see something. I'd agree that we're gonna have sticker shock as to what it would cost to do a year roll or 2 year, which is ideal in my mind, you know, where we are paying it back more or less annually. But maybe we can make it a more sustainable 3 year roll or 5 year roll where highway can know what they're doing, can plan, and we're gonna limit our interest cost to some kind of level.
Unless, and the other side of the coin is, we're paying an interest back at a lower value due to inflation.
I get to what Dick is saying. I somewhat agree with his method there. The question is, Rebecca, isn't there some past borrowing that the county's done that drops off each year?
Yes, that's correct. So again, you're paying off, right now, you're paying off 5 million. So you're taking, this year you'd take on 7, but you're gonna pay off 5. Again, to the point of if you wanted to back off on the amount of roads that you're doing, that's a question about, you know, how much you're gonna get done and how quick. If you look at that sheet that Brian gave you, there are 2 different scenarios listed there. How much it costs to do the 20-year wrap and how much it costs to do the lower borrowing time and what that looks like. And you can see what the costs are right there. It's a 10-year compared to a 20, I believe. So it'll be $10 a year for a $100,000 home on a 20-year, on the 20-year loan. And you have that sheet? I think it's $122. This one. Oh, I'm sorry. So there's just a difference in what it costs, you know, and to pay it off quicker. So I can have Brian come back and talk more about that pay down quicker conversation.
He is coming to our regular board meeting, ain't he, on the 16th?
On the 12th, yeah. Yeah.
Becky, if he could give us a readout on a different level of payback.
Okay.
Was this one based on 20? Yeah. Okay, yeah, that makes sense then.
Becky, there's another thing that I mentioned in that meeting, and one was the idea of, and I didn't bring up the subject of the courthouse and all this new stuff that's going on, but the idea of, let's just for say, right now, they're saying that the jail is making 10, 15, 20,000 every month from the people coming in. So instead of saying, let's take that 10, 15, 20,000 and put it in the fund, take that 10, set it, you made 12,000 this month. This 12,000 goes towards the interest, or goes towards the payment. And instead of saying, let's just keep storing this in a fund, at the end of the year, let's make a big lump sum like you were saying and make a payment on it. No, of course, when you pay your house off quicker, every month you pay $100, $200 more, your interest drops down half. And why couldn't, I don't know if we could do something like that, but why couldn't we do something like that?
Can I just make one comment? Though, when the sheriff's department did their budget, they based their budget on what they figured they were gonna get in revenues. So that already is offsetting our levy. So I mean, unless they get a lot more than what they budgeted, that would be the amount that could be put in that fund that you're talking about. I don't know what they budget. I didn't bring any of my budget stuff with. I'm sorry I didn't. But if they budgeted $200,000 that they were gonna make in revenues for boarding other prisoners, and they made 200, that just made the budget. But if they made 250, then you'd have 50,000 to put into what I think what you're talking about, that extra fund.
So you're saying the budget's lower for the sheriff's department?
Yes, yes, because
Right.
they had that money coming in. So their levy actually went down.
Down, okay.
Yep.
Good question, though. Any other questions? Okay, not hearing none, we'll go on. Resolutions, environmental land use, amendment to the comprehensive zoning ordinance in chapter 3.
Whereas Trempealeau County previously adopted a comprehensive zoning ordinance, which was last amended on July 15th, 2024. And whereas pursuant to county ordinance and as consistent with state law, the Environment and Land Use Committee may prepare and submit proposed amendments to the comprehensive zoning ordinance for consideration and for possible adoption by the Trumbull County Board of Supervisors. And whereas the proposed amendments to the comprehensive zoning ordinance are attached hereto and reflect recommended changes to Trumbull County zoning ordinance chapter 3 and specifically to Trumbull County zoning ordinance section 3.03 parentheses 3. And whereas a public hearing was held on October 2nd, 2024 pursuant to Wisconsin statute 59.69 parentheses 5 parentheses E2 regarding these proposed amendments to Trempealeau County zoning ordinance chapter 3, a copy of which has been filed in the office of the Department of Land Management and the office of the county clerk, and were available for public inspection for at least 2 weeks prior to the adoption of this resolution. And whereas the Environment and Land Use Committee has reviewed the proposed amendments to the comprehensive zoning ordinance, and it has determined that the proposed amendments are needed and in the best interest of the health, safety, and welfare of county residents, and that they would better protect county land and resources. Now be it resolved that the Trumbull County Board of Supervisors hereby adopts and approves the attached amendments to the Trempealeau County zoning ordinance, introduced by Environment Land Use Committee, Kellen Nelson, David Larson, Anthony Munson, Andrew Todd, Kevin Whalen, Randy Severson, and Stacy Klein.
Motion by Supervisor Nelson, second by Supervisor Waldera.
No.
No?
No, wait, I'll wait for it to be seconded, sorry. Sure, I'll second it, yes. Yes, I forgot I gotta do that. Yes, but I have a question.
Oh, okay.
That was what I was getting at.
Now what's the question?
Formalities. I'm sorry, but I don't see the amendments. I don't know what we're changing.
Weren't they in your packets?
It's listed as chapter.
I thought it should have been in your packet as one of the
I'm looking for the packet.
attachments.
What's the packet under?
2024 times 1 amendment.
It's
Click
in,
on that one.
look at your packet stuff, right, because I'm positive it went out.
Yeah, it's in
Oh.
there.
But it's sometimes we can press something there and it takes us there.
You gotta find it on your packet. They're all,
Just go to your email and click on the SharePoint and just this
Did you-
meeting's links will come up.
did you go to your email that says packet?
Yep,
Committee?
I'm
Okay.
here.
And when you get in there, then there's a link to the items, it says, link to items.
Yep, I'm there.
And then you should have the list of everything that's attached.
I'm there.
And there should be one that says, I don't know what it says right now, but
It's the sixth one down.
All that pops up when I click on that is the actual resolution, not,
no, then you're picking the wrong number.
okay, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Because that has a number on it. It's not those three, it's the,
You have the amendments, though, right? Yeah.
no, not that one.
No, that's the
no,
resolution.
There should be. Go, it's not these three. Go. Okay, is there anything
No,
lower than
no,
this?
No.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, click on that one once, too.
Can I make a quick suggestion here?
No, slide down.
It would be nice where there's a resolution, we can go from, it tells us where to go from there. If we could just have
It's on right now.
an attachment, right off the resolution itself.
I got nothing.
It should have showed the crossouts and the reds and the adds and the subtracts.
You can find it in the October ELU.
But I didn't know that.
If it wasn't,
Yeah, but
I didn't find it in the packet either, and I was there for it.
Just go to ELU, that's where you check.
But I don't have access to ELU because I'm not an ELU member.
what I would suggest for this particular matter is that we add this to the November agenda to make sure that we are properly notifying the public.
Okay.
You can just minimize this.
Well, I think the issue is we didn't, I mean, I'm assuming it's probably all good, but I don't see it.
We have somebody from Environment and Land Use who can come up and explain it to all of us right now, correct?
Correct.
Yes, they can, but I guess if it's not on there, no one else, I mean, I think they gotta see it.
And
But you can explain it.
well, I appreciate that Mark's been sitting there for a long time.
Yes.
I can't find it either. And all of my agendas were printed directly from the public-facing section, so I think unfortunately, the attachment wasn't included in the resolution. So, unfortunately, I think we need,
Normally, do all the person from Environment and Land Use comes and explains it to us?
we also need to make sure
After
that
it's
we're
been
publicly
published.
notifying what the change is, though.
I would like to make a motion.
Yes.
I would move that we table this matter until next month's meeting for approval, and that in the future, that there be a note regarding the attachment on the resolution, so we can go right to it.
I
Postpone
have
it.
to talk to IT. That would be an IT thing.
Well, this is what I'm proposing in my motion.
Okay.
And if they can't do it, then they can tell us how we can, otherwise,
No, this is a motion that'll override the one.
did you
Is
read
there a
it?
second to that motion?
Did you know?
I'll second.
So is the motion to table,
To
or is
table-
it to amend?
To table until next month,
Okay.
and that if at all possible, to attach at the bottom of each resolution, if there's an attachment so we can hit it and go right to it, just to simplify it. That's my motion.
That'd be way too easy.
Oh, I'm sorry, John.
Access to other committee reports under committee packets, so you can go in.
But
Okay,
that's
that
not
I
where-
didn't know,
it
so
should-
thank you
it
for
should have
that.
been in this packet. Yeah.
I didn't see it either.
For future, if you don't have it.
But it does still have to be published to the public.
Well, the public, it was a public hearing. There was a public hearing already.
Oh, true. Yeah,
There was a public hearing.
true.
I guess I don't understand why we have to.
Who seconded Dick's?
I don't know.
Someone else second that.
Jeannie.
Oh, Jeannie did,
I
okay.
did, but I,
Okay.
for the purpose of discussion, because there was a lot of discussion after. If there was a public hearing about this, I'm guessing there was a public hearing, there were no concerns. I
There-
don't know why.
So this is amendment to our ordinance. So the public hearing, it's a good question. The public hearing is part of the initial, excuse me, the initial ordinance change. And it's part of our process. It's also part of the statute. But for you, as a county board, to vote on something, you need to be given what you're voting on. And also, the public has a right to know what's being voted on as well. So that's why there needs to be, but that's only part of it. Today's is also part of that process, too.
Mark, you did email this to me, right?
Yes, I believe I did.
I'm gonna go back in my emails and see if I can find it. Because
So anyway-
I got a handwritten.
So
thing from
anyway,
you
the
guys.
motion's been made by Supervisor Miller and seconded by Supervisor Nutter to table this and get it so we all have it on our November meeting. So, the motion been made and seconded. Any discussion on that? Not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? That's carried. We'll go to the second one, Property and Executive Finance Committee.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the resolution.
No, that's overridden by this, yep. Whereas the Trumpealeau County Government Center has in the past rented a skid steer for the winter season as well as for other governmental matters. And whereas the cost to rent the skid steer has increased over 280% since the last rental period, surpassing both the amounts budgeted for in 2024 and the proposed 2025 budget for this item. Whereas the rental cost would surpass the cost to purchase a skid steer after 3 years. And whereas the most efficient and best use of county resources is to purchase a skid steer unit for the county government center for snow removal and other projects. Now be it resolved that, there's two that's, just one needed, that the Trempealeau County Board of Supervisors do hereby authorize the amount of $52,000 for the purchase of a skid steer unit to be owned and kept at the Trempealeau County Government Center, and funds be taken from the unassigned general fund and added to account 101.51601.707. Co-introduced by Property Committee, Robert Becker, Dick Miller, Renee Lyon, Richard Anderson, Richard Seisha. Co-introduced by Executive and Finance Committee, David Larson, Bridget Turner, John Austin, Robert Becker, Richard Seisha.
Motion by Supervisor Nutter, seconded by Supervisor Lyon. Any discussion at all? Our
he's getting
maintenance man is here to explain what's happening.
So before I get too deep, I think, Susan, you had a portion that went along with it.
I do. Do you want me to
Whatever
give
you
that
gotta do so
first?
that it's kosher when we're all done.
I will maybe do that at the tail end after
Okay.
you explain why you're here today.
Okay, so, again, the resolution pretty much stated what I'm doing here. We've rented a skid steer every year since I've been here and every year prior to that. The price has gone up incrementally over the past 10 years, but a jump that I was informed of on October 7th of this year, it would go from $4,500 for the normal rental time to $17,500 for that rental time.
Holy cow.
The change in that was across the board with that particular company, so it's a uniform price for everyone that's getting that unit, and it is comparable to other places in the area that rent skid steers, because I checked United Rental and St. Joseph's Equipment as well, and their prices were within the same ballpark for that price. So, again, if the other options that I looked at were leasing that a unit, which would be about $12,000 a year, but then at the end of that lease, I'd end up having to buy out of the lease, and I'd end up spending, either renewing the lease and continuing to pay that forever, or paying 20 grand at the end of it. So the 52 grand is roughly, it's 52,500 would be what it would cost for me to rent the unit for 3 years. That's what I'm asking for from the board tonight, so that I can just purchase a unit with those funds to have one going forward.
Where would you store that skid steer, in the old sheriff's garage, or?
That is correct. When the sheriff's department moved into this facility, we took over the 4 south-facing garage doors, and one of those bays is for equipment like this.
Any other questions?
Includes maintenance too, right?
Yeah, so the price that I'm looking at on one of them would include, if I were to go that route with purchasing the new one, because I do have prices on used units, so I'm trying to find the most cost-effective for the county that doesn't have crazy high hours or super, used or beat up. So if I do go the newer route with the price that would fit into what I'm asking for here, that would come with an extended warranty and a service plan that would cover a 5-year period on that one. So, but again, that's why the resolution is just for a skid steer in general until I can narrow down the price, because this was a sudden change. Because it was when I went to set up the rental for this year is when I was informed of this price. That's why this is all coming to you now, because it was given to me 2 weeks ago, basically, so.
The property committee did look at used ones.
Yep.
And compared them to, and the price was over half of what a new one would cost. And the longevity on a new one, we looked at amortizing it out over 20 years, and you end up paying $2,500 a year rather than $17,000 if you just get it used. So, I mean, it seems like a no-brainer. It's too bad that they jumped up so damn high, but.
Correct. I mean, and like I said, I can't fault the company because it is a change across the board. So it wasn't just directed at me in particular or the county in particular, but it was still a significant jump because the rental cost of that, is higher than my entire snow budget for the year. So that just doesn't work out favorably for us.
And Jeremy, I forgot to tell you earlier, just maybe check with Rich to see what he has to do, or some people that do give him that governmental discount.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody would know, he would know out there, so.
Yep, and then, like I said, the ones that I have prices on new do have a governmental discount that goes along with them. And then, of course, no tax and everything that goes along with that. And that's why I did reach out to the highway department and got prices from everywhere that the highway department currently uses, from Comro, Tractor Central, LF George, Babbitt Cat, St. Joseph's, and Miller Bradford. I've called all those places, so I do have a list to work with. It's just making sure that I have the funds available before I move forward with anything.
How long do we normally rent a skid steer for?
5 months.
5 months? That's through the winter months typically?
Through the winter months
Okay.
here. And then I have in the past, and I still do rent one for a day here, a day there, just to help out my staff so we're not hauling stone across the parking lot or heavy items of equipment. So primarily it's for snow, because I've always tried to keep my costs down. There's been plenty of projects where I would have liked to have had one available to me, but since I had to rent the unit, it was just, we'll just use dollies and a pickup truck, so.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve up to 52 million.
Go!
520 bucks. I'll bring it back down to 520 bucks. No, 52,000. I was trying to,
Let's hurry up and vote on that before he changes.
yeah, so anyway, yeah. For 52,000, up to 52,000 for a new skid steer or replacement skid steer of some sort.
It's what the resolution says.
Okay, so call the roll.
Dick Miller,
Yes.
Kevin Whalen,
Yes.
John Austin,
Yes.
Don Waldera,
Yes.
Robert Becker,
Yes.
Renee Lyon,
Yes.
Kellen Nelson,
Yes.
David Larson.
Yes.
Jeannie Nutter,
Yes.
Ron Johnson,
Yes.
Bridget Turner,
Yes.
Stacy Klein,
Yes.
Richard Seixas.
Yes.
Lori Severson.
Yes.
Andy Todd,
Yes.
Richard Anderson,
Yes.
Kevin Adams.
Yes.
17-0.
Item C, Audit Committee.
Whereas the Audit Committee has audited the following claims and recommend that they be allowed as follows. John Austin, $1,373.53. Kevin Adams, $70.10. Richard Anderson, $480.91. Robert Becker, $659.88. Ron Johnson, $327.30. Stacy Klein, $233.08. David Larson, $571.46. Renee Lyon, $629.06. Dick Miller, $121.44. Kellen Nelson, $959.04. Jeannie Nutter, $729.56. Richard Seixas, $169.68. Lori Severson, 0. Andy Todd, $175.04. Bridget Turner, 0. Don Waldera, $150. Kevin Whalen, $184.84. Total per diems, $5,500. Total expenses, $1,334.92. Grand total, $6,834.92. Now be it resolved that the claims be allowed as shown. Introduced by Audit Committee, John Austin, Renee Lyon, and Kellen Nelson.
Motion by Supervisor Seixas, second by Supervisor Turner. Any discussion at all? Okay, call the roll.
Richard Anderson. Kevin Adams.
Yes.
Dick Miller.
Yes.
Kevin Whalen.
Yes.
John Austin.
Yes.
Don Waldera.
Yes.
Robert Becker.
Yes.
Renee Lyon.
Yes.
Kellen Nelson.
Yes.
David Larson.
Yes.
Jeannie Nutter.
Yes.
Ron Johnson.
Yes.
Bridget Turner.
Yes.
Stacy Klein.
Yes.
Richard Seixas.
Yes.
Lori Severson.
Yes.
Andy Todd.
Yes.
17-0.
Okay,
No.
do we want to go into the audit, or the closed session, or should we finish the stuff at the end, so when we come out of closed session, we're done?
Andy's waiting.
He's been waiting.
Oh,
That's the only
oh, okay. Okay,
What?
motion to go into closed session. Somebody want to read it?
He has big print here.
I make a motion.
Turn your mic on.
You just say, make a motion to.
Okay, all right, I got it. Make a motion to go into closed session pursuant to the Trempealeau County Employees Handbook, is that it? Policy manuals on,
Start with discussion and action on investigation.
oh, discussion and action with counsel regarding impending legal action.
That's not it. Nope. that's
Okay,
not
well,
it.
you don't have the right agenda for me. A.
A.
That's what is under A.
That's. Discussion and action on, is that what you want?
Yeah, you got
Okay.
it right.
Discussion
She was
and
probably
action
reading down
on
here.
investigation
She was reading
performed
B.
pursuant to the Trempealeau County Employees Handbook and Policy Manual on complaints received from employees to be held in closed session per Wisconsin statutes 1985, parent 1, parent C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, and performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. If necessary, the board may authorize further action based upon the investigation in closed session to preserve the integrity of the investigation and the initial report as discussed in closed session. Do you want me to read B too?
Yep.
Discussion and action with counsel regarding impending legal action on pending petition to be held in closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 1985, parent 1, parent G, confirming with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. If necessary, the board may authorize the action in closed session to avoid compromising the need for this closed session. Thanks for the big print.
And then the second. Stacy Klein. Stacy Klein seconded.
Motion made by Nutter, was you, right?
Yeah, it was.
Supervisor Nutter, second by Supervisor Klein. You want to call the roll?
Mm-hmm. Richard Seisha.
Yes.
Lori Severson. Andy Todd.
Yes.
Richard Anderson.
Yes.
Kevin Adams.
Yes.
Dick Miller.
Yes.
Kevin Whalen.
Yes.
John Austin.
Yeah.
Dawn Waldera.
Yes.
Robert Becker. Robert Becker.
He left the room.
So did Renee Lyon. So did Kellen. Oh, here comes, well, I'll catch those three on the way back.
Oh, they're all coming.
Good. No, not Robert yet. Well, Renee Lyon? Yes?
Yes.
Kellen Nelson?
Yes.
David Larson?
Yes.
Jeannie Nutter?
Yes.
Ron Johnson?
Yes.
Bridget Turner?
Yes.
Stacy Klein?
Yes.
We gotta wait for Robert. No, everybody has to vote. Well, yeah, what happens if it isn't unanimous? Somebody votes no? Huh? Oh, good. Adi, do you want to say yes? Yes. Okay, thank you. 17-0 for closed. Oh, just correspondence.
Yeah.
I usually put that it's a letter from so-and-so.
Okay, but announcements or appointments, anything there?
No, I don't have anything there.
Committee reports.
They were all in your packets, and I guess actually some might even be on your desks. Okay?
Okay, now the correspondence. You can read the correspondence.
Okay. Oh, this was addressed to Paul Severson, Trempealeau County Clerk, and Trempealeau County Board of Supervisors. I just wanted to send a thank you for the 36-plus years I've spent serving the people, elected officials, and organizations of Trempealeau County. Trempealeau County has had the great good fortune to have a local extension office for 100 years since the board hired its first county agent in 1924. Around 1970, the county had its first CNRED agent when Peter Berry transitioned from being an agriculture agent to a community development educator. From the first year CNRED, educators have been actively involved in making Trempealeau County a wonderful place to live. Pete was actively involved in the creation of the county's first economic development corporation. He also played a critical role in the creation of TCC-TV, now known as WTCO. I know I have enjoyed the wide variety of educational efforts I have been in. From my first presentation of what is economic development to the local county towns unit to the work I did on solid waste issues where I earned the nickname Bag Lady, I have had a challenging and exciting career. I have worked with local communities on strengthening their downtowns. I work closely with county officials on the creation of the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council that Adam Trunzo is so ably leading. I am proud of the work I did with county officials on the organization and development of the Long-Term Care Council, one of the first in the state, which served as a model for the whole state when Wisconsin addressed long-term care reform. Throughout all these years, educating well owners and public officials about groundwater and its importance to all of us in Trempealeau County has been a major effort. Our office has partnered with UW-Stevens Point, Land Conservation, Public Health, and Land Records to create an amazing collection of groundwater quality results. This data set is used for policy making, research, mapping, and individual questions about water quality. This tradition continues with the work Melissa Kono has done with extending our groundwater program. She provides election worker training throughout West Central Wisconsin and has trained hundreds of workers supporting county clerks throughout our region. She has provided education and support to organizations looking to develop and expand childcare in our effort. She also works on downtown issues to keep our communities vibrant places to live. None of the work I've done or the people who preceded me or follow me would have been possible without your support. Thank you, Pat Malone.
Okay.
Is she
Yeah,
retired? Is she, what?
She took a different job or something, didn't she?
She took a different job. She stepped down as supervisor.
Okay, so she's not with?
She's with them still, but yeah,
she's still-
someplace else.
She's-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Area supervisor? I guess she's an area supervisor of some sort. Okay, item 13, I need a motion to instruct the clerk to pay mileage.
Please keep in mind that this motion should say it's for October 8th, 14th, 16th, and 21st. There's 4 meetings. Didn't she say that?
Yes, she did.
mine say 0?
Did you? We don't put county board meetings on the claims.
Oh, they're separate.
Yeah.
Okay,
So even though you didn't turn in a voucher, you're still gonna get paid for the last 4. If
So
you
anyway-
attended them all.
anyway.
I assume,
have a
Paul, you kept
motion.
track of which ones were virtual and which
We have a
ones.
motion from
so that-
Supervisor Turner and a second from Supervisor Wallen.
Okay, we also, what?
Who made the motion? Steve or
Supervisor Turner. Supervisor
She said
Turner.
it before
Turner.
John finished his sentence.
I just want to also mention to you that the virtual meetings, you will have no mileage, okay?
If you were at,
We kept track.
and if you were at a meeting tonight, property or exec or personnel bargaining, don't put mileage on it. I'll pay your mileage with this meeting.
Because you only get 1 mileage.
1 mileage. Yep. Who seconded it though? Wayland?
Seconded by
Kevin,
Kevin Whalen, yeah.
Got it.
Okay,
I'm ready if you're
call
ready.
the roll.
Kellen Nelson. David Larson.
Yes.
Jeannie Nutter.
Yes.
Ron Johnson.
Yes.
Bridget Turner.
Yes.
Stacy Klein.
Yes.
Richard Sasha. Lori
Yes.
Severson. Andy Todd.
Yes.
Richard Anderson.
Yes.
Kevin Adams.
Yes.
Dick Miller. Kevin Whalen.
Yes.
John Austin.
Yes.
Don Waldera. Robert Becker.
You betcha.
Renee Lyon.
Yes.
17-0.
Okay, we can adjourn at 10:09.
It is.